This is Colin Dixon with nScreen Media, and I'm speaking with Tina Wilson, who is Head of Analytics at Nielsen. Tina, welcome.
Thank you, Colin. So nice to be here.
And you had a really exciting announcement around a diversity, and you're producing tools to help Hollywood deal more effectively with diversity in their assets. So first of all, why don't you tell us about that, and then we'll get into how you're generating that data.
Yeah, absolutely. Really an exciting opportunity for us. So last week we launched Gracenote Inclusion Analytics, and it is our opportunity to take Nielsen's audience measurement data and combine it with Gracenote metadata. So Nielsen bought Gracenote back in 2017, and we have just this rich repository of lots of information about content. And we're able to bring these things together to be able to produce new metrics for the industry about the talent that's on screen, and whether that talent is representative of the people who watch the content and the people who in general society for the relative incidences of those same groups.
So this is very useful data that the industry, I think, can use in many places. Maybe we'll touch on that in just a second. But the thing that immediately piqued my interest about this was the fact that you are generating, how you're generating this information, and are you using AI? I mean, I was wondering if that was how you were generating it.
So great question, most common question that we get. So we are not using AI. It's really important to us that we feel strongly about the accuracy of the information that we're using here. And we're relying on self-representation. So let me break that down. There's actually 3 steps to how this comes together. Since we're not using AI, I think it's worthwhile kind of bringing that to life a little bit. So as I mentioned, we're using the Gracenote assets for the global data studio. And so from that, we've got a repository of 2 million celebrities. So we start with that, and it has information about the talent and information about the episodes that they're in. And then we combine that with the studio system, which is a lot of rich data about the content itself. And so it gives us this great launch pad for the information that we have. So then we take the Nielsen audience data, and we're able to look at the top performing content that we have. And for those that are the top 100 broadcast, top 100 cable, top 100 streaming, as well as the endemic programming for Black, Hispanic, and Latino, we're able to use the rich data that we have along with the audience data to produce these measures of the representation of the talent on screen versus population and versus the viewing audience.
Tina, that sounds like a lot of information, and you're using the editorial staff there to bring all of that into the metadata?
Yes. So the self-representation part is really very important. And so we leverage the data that's available. So Gracenote has professional editorial staff, and they work with the trades. They work with news, and they look through publicist information. So really anything about the talent, we make sure has already been curated through those sources. So the methods that we use to collect the data goes through those same professional channels. So we either have it in those databases, or we look to do additional research by following those same protocols. So it's really something we take very seriously, and very keen on having a very consistent approach in how we do so. And in the case where we have any gaps of the talent that's shown on screen, we do additional research, and we have trained coders that come from our business resource groups and sit in these identity groups themselves, who really help us through a set of processes to fill in any gaps should they exist.
And so what would I see in the metadata that this data is generating?
Sure. So within the metadata, there's information about race, ethnicity, age, LGBTQ status. And I think what's really rich about the data is the ability to look across the groups. So we're not just able to look at male versus female. We're able to look even deeper than that. So for example, we could look at South Asian, LGBTQ, 35 plus. And so it's just this ability to have a richness across over 60 different identity groups by looking at the richness of the data.
And how do you anticipate folks using this?
Gosh, I think what's been most fulfilling to date is bringing this forward because we know that there's a social justice, reason that's behind it. So it's really timely and really useful. And what we're finding is that studios want to be able to use it so they can look at their catalogs and make sure they're valuing their content appropriately, or they're aligning with the right distributors for that content, and really being able to make sure they're maximizing against that. Networks are looking at their overall programming slates and benchmarking themselves versus some very public calls to actions that they've made about wanting to advance in the industry for diversity and inclusion. So they're using it for that purpose, as well as aligning for brands who want to be associated with those networks. And distributors are looking to understand the catalogs that they offer and really making sure that they're, really bringing the right content to attract those diverse audiences, but also to help with the curation and the discovery phase of what they're offering. If there are certain topical time periods in the year or categories that they want to be able to highlight, it's really a mechanism for them to produce more of a subcatalog of that content for special purposes. Black History Month, Women's History Month is kind of key examples there. And then, as I mentioned, brands want to be able to connect to content that share the same value system that they have in the same representation.
Yeah, and it's also has some really interesting applications, I imagine, in personal discovery, where people now have tools that they can actually use to discover content more like them, right?
Absolutely. Well, what we're seeing is that there's an increase in multiculturalism overall. We know that those are consumers who spend a lot of time with media and continue to do so. And I think the US Census has said that by 2044, we'll have a majority minority environment in the US. And so we know that's critical. And so folks are attracted to content that they see themselves in, to storylines they can relate to, and they tend to spend more time with that content as well. So it has both a social justice and a business application behind it, which makes it even more meaningful to bring this product forward.
So this is great. Sounds like a really timely tool. When can folks get their hands on it?
So we officially released to networks and to studios on March 1st, and it'll be more widely accessible on June 1st to anyone in the industry who's looking to curate a data set against this diversity set that we've done.
And it sounds like I think you said when we were chatting beforehand that you'll have 1,200 assets in this database by the end of the year.
That's correct. So we started this process back in 2020. And so we have data from 2019 forward, but we expect by 2021, we'll have the top viewed programs quarterly and annually, as well as the endemic programs for across 2020. And again, that's across streaming, broadcast, and cable.
So it sounds like it's an essential tool for anybody in the industry to have their hands on. Tina, thank you so much for spending time telling us about this. And I hope you come back and tell us about other innovations that you're bringing to the industry.
Colin, appreciate it and absolutely look forward to doing just that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tina. This has been Colin Dixon with nScreen Media.